So good morning.
Morning.
Welcome to this third lecture of IT Toolbox. First of all, I would like to remind you that we are looking for course rep for the fourth year of computing science. We need at least 3 volunteers. Okay, so I guess you have received that already. So if you feel that you want to learn some extra skills, add a line on your CV, I would suggest applying. Okay. If you are interested, give me your name, and I will pass that to the right person. It's quite urgent, so if you could do that today, that would be great. I mean, I think it's a good experience. You will learn in the process, and obviously you will differentiate yourself from your other fellow students, because in 3 years' time, 200 of you will be applying maybe for the same job, and a few of them would have been course rep, and that will be obviously an added value already on the CV, but also through the skills you will have learned. Okay? So, as you know, the course is organized around 4 different themes. IT fundamentals, web prototyping, web of data, and opportunities and trends. So far, we have had 2 lectures which belongs to the web of data. And now this week, we will be looking at the first lecture on IT fundamentals about servers and hosting, the internet in general. And this lecture is quite important because it's going to be the starting point for starting the next theme of web prototyping. Okay, so first of all, I would like to give you a bit of feedback regarding activity 2, because you may have noticed the activities are coming every week. So some of you are keeping with the pace, and unfortunately some of you are already behind. And so for the first activity, I had 119 students who submitted by the first deadline. This time it's only 91, so it's not going the right way. Okay, so we'll expect more students now that you are more familiar with the course. So it's not great. Okay, so remind you we are around 200 students in the class, so the numbers should be much higher. I can see that you have been using YouTube videos, either to catch up with lectures or to use the contents for completing your activities. So good, carry on. We are still being filmed. So activity 1, the final deadline is in 2 weeks. Okay, so activities are accumulating, but in 2 weeks' time, that will be the end for activity 1, and you are at risk of getting 0 if you haven't submitted by then, or if you haven't done the work at a reasonable level. Getting a bit late, guys. Okay. And obviously, activity 2, the deadline is in 3 weeks. And activity 3, the deadline is in 4 weeks. Okay, so regarding activity 2, we had 93 students who submitted. Again, most of the students have submitted, have passed. I mean, the initial activities are not too challenging, okay, for getting you going. So in principle, you should pass them if you put a bit of effort in completing the activity. It's going to change, it's going to be much harder soon, so these are the easy points to get, so make sure to get them. So there were also partial completions. So somehow people have started the activity but haven't completed it yet, which is still a good sign. You have been working on it. But remember that activities are accumulating, and you should really complete them within the first week. So in that activity, you had the options of choosing either building your own store, dealing with affiliate schemes, exploring AdSense advertising, or offering a service on Fiverr. And the large majority of the people who have submitted went for building their own store. So here are some comments that you have provided. You know that at the end of each activity you can provide some questions, some comments. So Pushpa, who marked your work, noticed that some of you had some very good observations. Some of you also were a bit misguided in their observation. As you see, for example, someone said that AdSense requires a week for verifications, and it's not really true. You know, it's usually between 24 and 48 hours. Okay. A lot of you submitted an issue to try to evaluate how much money their business is going to make, and that's really the £1 million question. So that's tough, we know it. It's basically impossible mission to put a number, but still you need to put a number, okay? Because if one day you need a loan for creating a business, you are going to see your banker, you need to have a plan, and that plan should have numbers, okay? So there are a bit of guesstimates, but they shouldn't be just coming from nowhere. There should be some evidence, and you do the best in estimation from the evidence you have, okay? Obviously, some people found that it was a bit of work, this activity, and yes, it's work. You are at university now, you want to become IT professionals, so you will have to spend some time struggling on different pieces of coursework. So a question about shall we choose between what is cheap or what is quick? So Pushpa reminds us that there are three important elements: time, cost, and quality. And when you are providing a service, you need to find a good compromise between those three elements. So, there are exercises, so don't worry. If you are not making your first million by the end of the month, you will still pass the activity, okay? Don't worry about that. So, yes, some software are able to handle different languages. And again, this problem of how to evaluate the money I'm going to make, and Pushpa has produced a few slides to help us. As I said, it's mainly guesswork, but it should be informed. So first of all, you need to research the demand, who potentially could be interested in your product. Guys, it's getting really late. Okay? Next time I will ask you to stay outside and watch the video on YouTube because we are disturbing the class. So do some searches, use some services like keyword tools, keyword planners. Also some websites offer revenue calculators. So again, have a look around. they are not going to give you the same values. Okay, every website will have their own way of calculating things. But by collecting all those different pieces of information, you will be able to come up with a number which hopefully will be reasonable, if not accurate. So the profit of a small internet business really depends on the audience. How many visitors do you have on your website? Okay. Obviously, if nobody finds your website, you're not going to sell anything. So you should be monitoring traffic on your website. And here there are a few traffic analysis tools. But you shouldn't be impatient. You know, you need a bit of time to be recognized on the internet, and 3 months is really the minimum time to start having an impact. Okay, so don't be desperate if you don't get any hits in the first few weeks. So some basic rules. So quality, obviously, is very important, especially on the internet where the visual is very important. So if your website looks a bit 80s in its style, it's not going to attract many people. Obviously, what is important is people speaking about your system, people having linked towards your system, because that's the way Google is going to find you. If people are pointing a link towards your website. And then when you are lucky to get some visitors, you really need to keep them on your system. Okay, you don't want what we do very often. You click on a website, you have a look at 10 seconds, and you move away. No, you need to keep them. And if they start interacting with it, make sure that they are coming back, okay, because it's all about loyalty and trust. It's tough, okay. There's a lot of hype about people making a lot of money on the internet, but behind there's a lot of work. Okay, it's not instantaneous. There's no silver bullet behind everything. It's a lot of work, a lot of trial and errors, but you will get better. And I would like to remind us that we still need some course reps, so please consider being a volunteer. So what I would like to do, I would like to have a poll and see some of you found the channel. Which one is it? 05. 05. So as you know, we have a set of mentors who are here to help you. So I would like to know if the process has started. So there is a Facebook group. I've seen that was advertised on Study Space. I provided you with emails. They had to set up surgery hours. So hopefully the 3 modes of communication, face-to-face, email, and the Facebook group should be running. So which one have you used so far? Or maybe you have been quiet. There hasn't been any contact yet. Wow. 85 today. good number. Okay, let's have a look at the outcome. When we get to 90. Yes. Okay. So somehow a majority, almost a majority, haven't interacted yet with the mentors. So maybe because you don't need them yet, that you have found the activity easy enough and you manage on your own. Or maybe you were not too much aware of the mentor system or you are a bit shy. So don't be shy. You can see that half of the class have been in contact with the mentors one way or another. So the most popular way has been emails, then the Facebook group, and then eventually the face-to-face. Okay. So 9% out of 90, so it means that 8 people have already met physically a mentor, which is good. Was it a positive experience? Very quiet now. Yeah, maybe I should have a poll next time asking if the interaction has been positive or not. But it's good. I mean, after 2 lectures, already half of the class have been involved in the mentoring program. That's good. It's late. Okay, so after that feedback about the second piece of coursework, let's move to the third lecture. So we are going to look at the web in general. Okay. As you know, I want you all to have a website written from scratch by Christmas, so we need to get going. Okay, so when we speak about the web, sometimes we speak about cyberspace. You know? We speak about cloud computing. So somehow it looks like there is nothing really physical. It's all floating around. Okay. And but actually there are some physical things. First of all, when you look at any website, you will have a suffix which will inform you where the server is hosted. Okay, so obviously in the UK usually it's that we have .uk at the end. So there is a suffix per country, and then there are some more general suffix like .com and .net and so on. So does it really matter that you are surfing a website from one place or another?
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah? Why?
Because we have a different language.
Yeah?
The results will be different to the location, so that might affect your results.
Yeah? As you have seen in the first assignment, that if you look for Google here or in the US, you will get different results.
I think it depends on the ending. So like, there's a difference between .uk and .tech. Whereas if so, one's graphical geolocation and one's more specific as what the website's about.
Yeah. Okay, good. Is there anybody from Tuvalu in this class? Nobody from Tuvalu? Have you heard of Tuvalu? No, you've never heard of it. Yeah, a few of you have heard about Tuvalu. So I will tell you about Tuvalu. Maybe that's a place where you would like to go on holiday soon. Looks like that. Yeah? And it's warm sea, okay? It's not the North Sea. It's there. It's quite remote. Okay. So if you want quiet holidays in a sunny place, that's maybe the place to go. So why are we speaking about Tuvalu?
They don't have a web server.
You believe they don't have a web service? So it's a small country, okay? Almost 11,000 inhabitants. It's very small, the fourth smallest country in the world. But in the IT world, it's a very famous country. Okay. Why is it so famous? Because of their domain name. .tv. Lucky guys, you know. They didn't do anything, and they got a fantastic domain name. So you can imagine all the TV channels very keen to have a website in Tuvalu. Okay. Guys, when you arrive so late, I would ask you in the future just to watch in on the internet, okay? Because you are disrupting the class. Okay, so those people of Tuvalu earn more than $2 million every year just by accepting companies to be hosted on their servers. Okay? Which means that it's around 10% of the revenue of the Tuvalu government, and each inhabitant receives. And which means that each inhabitant receives a check, basically, of a bit more than $200 every year for doing nothing, okay? Just for enjoying the fact that they live on a beautiful island with an interesting domain name. Okay, that's quite interesting. So when I say, is the suffix important when you are on the internet, if you live in Tuvalu, it's really important. Okay? 10% of the budget of the state is just coming from their domain name. Okay? I think that must be representing, I think the city in London represents 10% of the revenue of Britain. So, big stuff. We can also look at the locations by looking at networks traffics. Okay, so that's a screenshot that I took yesterday at 9:50, so almost 24 hours ago. But we can look at a website and get the traffic live. Yeah. So we can see where people are connecting on the net and which area are accessed. So we can see that it's the morning in Europe. Everybody is busy at work, so it's very red in all that part of Europe. Look that in Southern Europe, people haven't started yet. Still a bit early for them, maybe. We can see that the east coast of the US, people are asleep. And on the west coast, looks like people haven't gone to bed yet. Okay? Some people spending late evening on the internet. And then we have Japan and Australia was still at the end of their day. Okay? So which means that if now you want to connect to a server for doing some big work, maybe it's a good time if you need a server which is, for example, in New York. Not many people are using it at the moment. Okay? So if you want to get a speed up time, that's maybe the time. In the morning, work with the US. That can be useful. So that's the traffic that this real-time monitor provides us. Another thing which is interesting is the attacks. Okay. You can see that the internet is not a peaceful place. Okay. And so there's a bit going on in Europe, but not too much. They seem really busy attacking the western part and the eastern part of the US. And Korea seems to be also under heavy attack at the moment. Okay. And a few dots here and there. But that's quite interesting as well. Okay. So let's go back here. So that was the attacks yesterday, and same picture. There's not a big change. And the attacks are getting more and more serious. So over the years, I've been monitoring and collecting articles from the BBC website mainly. And you all know about Estonia. Yeah. It's a Baltic state which became independent after the fall of the Soviet Union, and which has a sizable Russian-speaking population. And so the state was created basically in the early 90s, and they have to create everything from scratch. You know? So it's quite different from the situation we are. In Britain, we have had a heavy administration since at least Victorian times. Okay? So the problem in Britain is more, can we get rid of the papers and slowly convert them into an electronic format, which seems to be better. But then they started from scratch. Okay, so they didn't have that problem, and they decided we don't need papers anymore. So there's no paper in the store. Okay, they decided to be 100% electronic. So there's no form to fill in a paper form. Okay, you must go online. So that's created a very modern country, and the administration obviously is more efficient. And at some point, they wanted to rename the country and call it Estonia. Okay. Eventually, they decided to keep the standard name. Maybe it was a step too far. However, it means that if your whole administration and everything is online, you are really at risk of cyber attacks. Okay? You can shut the country down if you do it properly. So it looks like in 2007, for some reason, that's what happened. Okay? For a few weeks, all the administration of the country was down because of an attack. Obviously, they worked very hard on security and so on, so it doesn't happen again since then. But it was an important warning. But it's not just Estonia, a small Baltic state. The Pentagon also got attacked. That was in 2011. Israel, the stock exchange, and all the airlines were shut down. China and the US decided that it was not a good idea to start a new Cold War based on cyber attacks, so they tried to collaborate and discuss the problem. Now every modern warfare has an electronic component. So, for example, here in Syria, it's late. The next time I will not accept you in the class.
Okay.
So we saw that the US and China tried to set up some rules. A few years later, it seems that it didn't work well. Okay, US military being attacked from China. Any country, even for example here in Thailand, This one was quite interesting. It was last year, and Kingston University was attacked. Okay. For a whole day, there was no internet. I mean, it was not just Kingston University; it was all the UK universities. You know, you are using that network called Janet. Janet was attacked, and all systems in all UK universities were down. So it's not just countries; it can be companies and even universities. That was the latest one I've seen. So that was last week, a few days ago. And now it's not China, it's Russia, and so on. So again, locations, cyber attacks are something very important. And location is not just about attack, it's about also the rules of the internet in different countries. So, for example, in China, there is important internet censorship. So is that a problem? Some people said it was not a problem, that maybe there was a way around it. And then you have other countries which have been in the spotlight. Here we have Australia, for example, which is a bit surprising. You wouldn't believe that Australia has a culture of censorship. Then you have seen some companies supporting the censorship of some countries. And it goes the other way as well. You have some countries which stop censorships. So you can see it's a very dynamic world. So here in Turkey, they wanted to ban Facebook and YouTube. Eventually, it came back. Tweeters, so that here it's in the UK. So there's not censorship as such in the UK, but the issue is that all communication are listened to. Okay. Which may be bad news for some of us. So I don't know if you know that organization, which is called Reporters Without Borders. So basically they are journalists and they are reporting if there is freedom of press in all the countries in the world. So they're interested in freedom of press in general. And if you want to know more about it, go on their website. I'm sure you will find it interesting. But they also produced a report a couple of years ago about institutions that are enemies of the internet. Okay, so it's one specific aspect of freedom of press. And we find, some of the countries we mentioned before. And obviously you can be enemies according to different kind of angles. Okay, maybe the state is listened to you, that's the surveillance. Maybe there is censorship. Maybe you are at risk to go to prison. Or maybe there is the last time I accept you in this class at that or there is maybe propaganda, disinformation. Okay. And interestingly, you will find a country like the UK on that list of enemies of the internet. Okay. So if we follow the arrow, we can see that the issue is that GCSQs, so that's the one listening to, collecting information everywhere for the MI5 and MI6, are listening to all communication on the internet. Okay? So that's the issue with the British governments, which is snooping on any of our communication. The US also is an enemy of the internet for the same reasons. Okay, so another poll. still on this topic of the fact that the internet is something international. So what are the main languages of the internet users? So I provide you with some options. So English is number one. Okay, we reach 80. I think it's quite a good number. Okay. So there are three main categories apparently. So we have English, Chinese, Arabic, English, Japanese and Russian, and English, Chinese and Spanish. Okay. So looks like there is a kind of consensus that there is English and Chinese. Yeah. 60% would go for English and Chinese. Then the question is it Arabic or is it Spanish, the third language? So we'd like to know. So here are the statistics. Okay. So that's from June 2016. So English is definitely number one. Then we have Chinese, which is really catching up. Okay. And then we have Spanish, Arabic, Portuguese, a lot of Portuguese, but it's more from Brazil than Portugal, you could guess, and then Japanese and so on. But also what is interesting to know that there's a big chunk of people who speak a language which is not in that list. Okay. So that would be how the world of internet users looks like. Obviously, the English part is getting smaller and smaller, and the Chinese one is really growing very fast. Okay, so that should be monitored because that may have impact on the internet of tomorrow. So if you want to be an IT professional and be able to target the largest number of users, maybe you should start learning Chinese and Spanish. So here I look at the content of the websites, okay? And you can see that there is it's not right, okay? Only a quarter of the users of the internet are English speakers, but more than half of the websites are in English. And interestingly, the second largest is not Chinese, is Russia. And then Japanese. Chinese websites only 2%. Okay. So that's quite interesting because you would expect website to be created with a view to satisfy users. Okay, so there should be a good match between the language of the users and the language of the website, and it's not the case. Or at least it's not the case yet. Yeah. Obviously, all that is very dynamic. As I say, English has been shrinking. Last year, it was more than 55% of the website. This year is 52.8. Maybe next year, English will lose the majority. Okay. A country which has been growing very fast in terms of websites has been Japan. Okay. So again, that's interesting trends and statistics to keep an eye on, because we are in our English-speaking world, and that world has been dominating the internet, is still dominating the internet, but is changing fast. And some of you may be able to read that. Actually, that's the URL of a website. Okay. Because in the past, you could have only URL using Latin characters. That's over. So you can click on that URL, and you are getting to. Someone could tell me? No? Didn't work? That's strange. Worked yesterday. So you get to the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology in Egypt. Okay. So again, that's a new way to internationalize the internet. Now, people who are using a different alphabets are able to have URL in their own alphabet. Okay. So again, that's an important trend. It happened a few years ago. It's not a long time, but that's going to change things. Okay, so now we have seen that there were users from all over the world, websites in many different languages. How many websites are there around? Okay. Just to help, I'm telling you that there are 7.5 billion people on this planet. So what is the ratio? One website per person? One website for 10 persons? 100 persons? You can see that there are a lot of discussions. Yeah, a blog is a website. Okay, let's see. 10 billion. So your guess is that everybody has a website today. Yeah? Everybody in the room has a website.
Some people have more than one website.
Yeah? Okay. Okay, so the 55% believe there are 10 millions, then 26% think it's 1 billion, and then there are a few other people, but some funny answers. So the answer is they are just getting to 1 billion host names, okay, and a few hundreds millions active websites. Yeah? That was the latest statistics from August 2016. You have this interesting website which tells you how many websites there are in the world at the moment. It's growing all the time. Yeah. So it's above 1 billion. Yeah. And as you should remember, we have 200 additional websites by Christmas. So the most popular sites. So you may have heard of some of them. I mean, I think that for the one which are based in the US, you may be using them every day, or at least every week. So all the obvious ones are there. Maybe what is more interesting is that there are quite a few Chinese websites. Yeah, quite close to the top, and it's going up. Okay, so maybe that's the ones you should be interested in. There are Chinese, then there is Google India, and then there is a Japanese one. Japanese portal of Yahoo. So, no big surprise here, but just notice that China is one of these internet power which is growing. Okay, so that's the next question. How many websites do you own, including blogs? So according to the world statistics, it's 1 for 10. We should have 10 websites in the class. Are we not representative of the world? More IT focused, maybe? Okay. So we have 1/3 of the class which has one website or more, and then roughly 2/3 of the class who doesn't have a website. As I said, these things are going to change. The number here is going to be 0 very soon. Yeah, you can come in, but from now, if you are that late, I will ask you to watch the video on YouTube. Have you ever seen the first web page ever?
No.
No? That's interesting.
Yeah.
So interestingly, this internet thing was a small project in a European organization doing nuclear research. Yeah. So the CERN. Do you know who is the father of the internet? Yeah, very good. Any of you have watched the Olympic Games in London? No, that's a very remote place. He was celebrated there, okay, as the father of the internet. And so he was leading that little project more than 20 years ago. And we can have a look at their website. That's the World Wide Web. Okay. So first of all, somehow, I don't know what you think, I feel it looks familiar. Okay, it's an environment where you don't feel lost, and you could navigate that website quite easily. Okay. Looks a bit old-fashioned, maybe, but you know the main things are there. You know, you have obviously hyperlink. You have a mailing list. Oh, need to be a member. You have some technical information. So how to provide data. And you have the list of all the people on the internet. That's great. So, and if you have a problem with the internet, it's very simple. You just send an email to Tim. You know, perfect support system. Okay, there's one person dedicated supporting the whole internet. Okay. So yeah, there are quite a few people, but Tim is the guy if you have a problem. How can I help? So they were quite keen on people adding a bit of content on the internet, because at the time that was the only page, which was not that exciting. They explain to you what this hypertext is about, because it's a completely new concept they came up with. Oh, they have something called frequently asked questions. Not too many questions. But it's quite interesting because, you know, most of the concepts that we have been using every day, they were already there. Okay? There's not much in terms of images and animations, but the backbone of the internet we have today was already there at the very beginning. Okay? Just a shame we don't have anymore an address book with one guy to contact. There is a problem. So that was the internet. A nice little project which has been quite successful. So how do you add content? Because that was really the big issue when the project started. Yeah, we have created that moderately interesting website. Now we want other websites to come up so that we create a network and people will start building on it. So there are two ways. Either you have a webmaster, okay, you have your own website, or you are a user of Web 2.0. You are all familiar with Web 2.0? Yeah? Broadly, it's what is called social media. Okay? You can upload some content on Facebook. Because in the past, only a webmaster could add some content. Okay? Or maybe through a forum, but would be not a main content. Now, using the Web 2.0, everybody is somehow some kind of webmaster, but it's not really the way the IT professional is going to add content. Okay, so that's the way the general public is doing it, and it's great that the internet has evolved in a way that now everybody can participate. But the real difference between the professional and the average users is that the professional will be also providing content in the webmaster category. Yeah. That's why I want you to have a website by Christmas. So some content providers, some are more famous than others. I quite like the third guy. Do you know that guy? That guy was a UK university student. And he had a big problem that you may have encountered, that studies are a bit expensive. Yeah. So he had finished school, about to go to uni, and he needed a bit of money to finance his university years and his going out and so on. So he spent the summer thinking about a little project that could bring him some money. Okay. Doesn't ring any bell? And he came up with the $1 million homepage concept. Yeah, still not ringing any bell? So, you know, he had his computer screen, and you know, this computer screen, there was 1 million pixels. And he said, okay, let's try something new. I'm going to sell each pixel of my computer screen. Create a website, and I can sell each pixel, and each pixel costs $1. So anybody can buy a pixel and put what they want in the pixel. Okay. So if you are of the romantic kind, you are going to buy a 5x5 and say, I love you forever. Okay. And you pay Alex, I don't know the number of pixels, maybe 40 pounds. Okay. So there was 1 million pixels on sales. And his website has been quite successful. He sold all of them. How much money did he make? Yeah, $1 million. Not quite pounds, but quite nice summer project. Yeah. So people who bought the pixels are there forever. Okay, so that website is on forever. And so some people bought many pixels, some just a few. And obviously if you click, you have a link towards the website of the people who bought that. So not only our friend won $1 million, but obviously he became an internet sensation. Yeah? And if you read a bit about, that's not very good. Wow.
Maybe nothing else exists in that website anymore.
I guess he had just kept the first page, but he became an internet sensation, and he was interviewed by TVs from all over the world. Okay. So not only he won $1 million, but he traveled all around the world where people wanted to know about his experience. Who was this British genius who came up with that great idea and made $1 million? Okay. Not bad for a first-year IT student. No. So hopefully some of you will come up with similar ideas and will get your £1 million maybe. Okay, so what content is accessed? Have you been curious and used Google Trends? So let's look at Google Trends today. Sometimes we get some interesting results. Okay, so that's what people are looking for on the internet using Google at this very moment. Okay. So obviously people are interested in presidential debate in the US. You can see there was a very big peak yesterday, so that was the day of the debate, and now the interest is fading out slowly. Obviously Hurricane Matthew is of interest, and I have no idea what MLB playoffs are.
Major League Baseball.
Okay, so some baseball in the US. And if you look at the major stories, a couple on baseball, then we have Halloween.
Overwatch. It's a game.
Oh, it's a game. Okay. Okay, so that's the trends in the US. Let's look at for the trends in the UK. Okay, so we have the Premier League, so different type of sports. Still a bit of politics. So that's the British one, but still some interest in the American ones. And Spice Girls. One of them is pregnant. Looks like a great piece of news, great interest. You think you know who the father is? Okay, so that's Google Trends. So again, that's some tools which allows you to have some understanding of what is of interest on the internet. And also you get those interesting curves where you see the story, you know. Is it a story which is of interest just for one day? Everybody is excited about the story and then everybody forgets about it? Or is it something that has been of interest for weeks and so on? So there are different curves, as you can see, depending on the topic. See, the English national team is always of interest somehow. So yeah, 2 days ago there was yesterday the Nobel Prize in Economics. So 2 days ago there was a big peak, everybody wanted to know about them, and now nobody cares anymore. So interesting tools in order to know what's going on the internet at the moment. So how is this content accessed? And most of it is accessed through what is called client-server architecture. So you have a client, so that's generally that's you. You have your device, and you are going to try to access some external content. And you have a server somewhere, maybe very far away, which has all that content, and you are going to contact that server in order to get access to that content. So you have many clients and just a few servers. And obviously, if you have too many clients trying to get access to one server, you can have troubles. And that's one of the weapons of the cyber criminals. They hijack millions of computers, and they make all those computers to access the same server. Millions of requests at the same time, servers cannot cope, and it shuts down. Yeah. That's the denials of attack, of access attack. So your client, so your device, is really specialized in the user interface, displaying the stuff in a nice way. And the server, which is usually a big machine, they are the one doing the heavy calculations and managing all the data. The alternative to the client-server system is what is called the peer-to-peer system, okay? Where there's not anymore servers which are centralized with all those data, servers that everybody is going to in order to access data. Now everybody is a server and everybody is a client. Okay? So that's the peer-to-peer system. And somehow it's better because when you can deal with faults, because here if your server crashes, that's the end, no more communications. Here, if one of them crashes, you still have access to most of the information. And that's the architecture, for example, which is behind Bitcoin. Okay? There is no centralized server. Everybody has a bit of the information on the network. So the client-server architecture is a asymmetric relationship. One makes the request, the other one makes replies and holds the data. On the other hand, the peer-to-peer everybody's client, everybody's server. So there's a equal state on the network. So typically, in an email application, you are the client, you are going to write your message, you send it to the server, and then the server is going to dispatch it to your correspondent. And the correspondents will know that a message has arrived, but the message itself hasn't arrived yet. They need to connect to the server in order to retrieve it. And so if you have set up your own email system, you will be maybe familiar with the concept of POP, Post Office Protocol. And so that's a protocol for an email server and for remote connection using what is called a TCP/IP connection, which stands for Transmission Control Protocol and Internet Protocol. So chat is not very different from emails. The only difference is that one message is going to be broadcasted to a large number of clients instead of being a one-to-one as the email system works. Okay, so now we have seen a bit of an overview of the state of the internet, some basic concept about how it works. And we have seen that there were two types of content providers. The one using the Web 2.0, that's all of us who are involved in social medias, for example. And then there are the webmasters, which will be all of us in a few weeks' time. So you need to run your own website. And we need to have a look at the web server technology. Which one is the right one? Because, as you know, in the world, there are all these different formats, operating system, and so on. And so that's the latest statistics I could get. So that's August 2016. And for a while, you know, there was not much to think about. The Apache web server was the technology of more than the majority. Yeah. So it has been leading for 20 years now. And last year when I gave this class, they were still leading. And now somehow there is that technology offered by Microsoft, we have just managed to go through the curve, and it's going up. Okay. So that's an interesting trend. That's new. That's just from this year. Is Microsoft going to, has Microsoft really overtaken Apache? If we look, on the other hand, at active websites, the picture is a bit different. Okay? Apache is still leading with almost 50% of the market, and Microsoft is quite low. Okay? So it looks like Microsoft is providing a system which allows you very easily to create some kind of website, and then you play a bit with it and you just forget about it. So maybe the system is not professional enough or used by professionals, but more by individuals who want to have a bit of a taste of being a webmaster. They do their little project, they get online, and after a while, it's not used anymore. Okay? So, which means that despite the fact that there is that trend when we look at these curves. In reality, Apache is still the real leader for professionals. So here we look at the top million busiest websites. Okay, so that's the websites which are very active, and we get a similar picture. Apache is still the leader, but interestingly, this graph tells us that there is a new system, Engine X, which is coming up. Okay, so Microsoft doesn't seem to be the main competitor actually of Apache. It's more Nginx. Yeah. And we will see in the years to come if eventually they are going to overtake Apache. But looking at those curves, for today's internet, Apache is still the leader for the professional website development. So, what will you do with your website? So obviously you are going to create and share content. You will learn how to become a webmaster. Possibly you will be making money. I've seen that some of you were quite excited by last week's activity, and they were quite keen to carry on. They started a mock-up website with the tools that Pushpa provided, and they say, how can I do more, and how can I do it for real? Yeah. Now you are going to have a website. That will be your opportunity.
Is this activity worth 3% as well?
Yeah. I mean, the website activities, there will be many of them. Okay? So we are going to have one this week, and then we will do a bit more, a bit more, a bit more. So we are going to build a website from scratch actually, and so we are going to add some more and more advanced technologies. So you will have this activity today, then you will have 5 other activities on building your website, and then you have the final piece of coursework, which is to present a complete website. Okay. So the message is the website building stuff is really important. Okay. Which means also that this activity today is not really an optional activity as the others, because if you don't complete that one, you will not be able to complete the 5 following, and you will not be able to do your final piece of coursework, which is 30% of the final mark. Okay. So this one is really important. Okay, so activity 3, you need to get your own web server up. Okay. So first of all, you will have to decide on a domain. Okay. Whatever name. I mean, I provided some information in the activity brief, how to choose an appropriate domain. So you can choose jcthebest.com. Yeah, sounds like a good name, or maybe not. And should it be .com? Should it be something else? So the first part will be choose the right name for your domain and the right suffix. Okay, where do you want to be? Do you want to be a .com, .co.uk, .net? There are many options and different prices as well. And then you will need to buy some space on a web server. Okay. It's not just good to have an address. You need some space to work with. Those companies are going to provide you some space, but they're also going to provide you some tools to work with. Okay. Because as I said, the server is doing all the heavy calculation of your website, and is also doing the storage of your data. So it's very important to have the right package on that server, because it's not your computer which is going to do the work, it's the server. Okay. So you will need to get a web server. The bad news is that you may need to spend a bit of money on that. Okay. I think the maximum you should be spending would be £40 for the whole year. Okay. Which is not that expensive as you think that. In IT Toolbox, I don't ask you to buy any book or anything, so £40. You could manage with a couple of pounds every month. Okay. I mean, there are many options. You may even find some free ones. Okay. I mean, as you know, nothing is really free. Okay. If you take the free one, you will be bombarded with publicities on your website, and the tools which will be provided will not be up to date. Okay. But at the end of the day, it's your choice. Okay, so you can buy the Rolls-Royce. Okay, top quality, everything is easy, just a simple click and everything is working. You have a problem, you just call team and they sort it out for you. Can I buy the Corsa? Okay, that's doing the job okay. Or you can get the old car of your granny where you need to spend a bit of time learning mechanics in order to make sure it works, but you get it for free. Okay? So the choice is yours. Also, if you are a bit short of money, you may share one with a friend. Okay, so you will have the same password, but that's okay if money is an issue. So if you buy the Rolls-Royce, it will be a very easy activity. You just pay the cash and you get everything working. On the other hand, you are not going to learn so much, okay? Because with a Rolls-Royce, you get a chauffeur, so you are not going to become a better driver. Okay? If you buy the standard one, you will learn a lot. If you want really the one where you need to get your hand dirty, that's where you will learn the most, if you are able to get those mechanics skills. Okay? So really the choice is yours. Try to select what is the best according to your constraints and what you want to learn. Some of you have already some space on a web server. That's great. So just use it. Okay? So you get it for free. Maybe the people who don't know yet where to get one, maybe you want to approach those people. Okay? Because they've already done all the research and they have found something which is cheap or which has the quality they are interested in. So maybe you can approach them, have a chat, and see if it's the kind of system that you are interested in. Or maybe have a chat with your mentors. All of them had to buy one or to get one at least last year, so they can share their experience. Yeah?
What if we already have a website after 1 year?
Okay, so the first thing is to get a domain and get some space on the server. And the second bit is I want you to create a blog. Okay. So that's completely new. If you have already a blog, I want you to create a new blog. Okay.
Can we just remove all the posts from the old one?
We will see if it follows the specs I'm providing. Okay. So, by the way, you know that blog comes from a web log. We blog. Blog. Yeah. So, what tools? The class is not over. Please. So, what environment are you going to use in order to create your blog? Okay, there are plenty around. And here are a set of interesting websites and blogs. And they are all created with the system I am asking you to use. So you can see it's quite varied. You have the 10 Downing Street website. You have the New York Times, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, some Nokia, and even a university department. Okay, so you can see that the system they are using is quite versatile. You can use it in many different environments. Here are the websites if you want to have a look at them. So we can have a look at this one. So a website looks professional, so that's the Department of Music of Cornell University. So how do we know what systems they used? So that's a good question. I mean, obviously the ones,
Go on and view the source of the website.
that's something which is very good.
Down, middle section.
View source. So, you know, you're becoming IT professional, so that should be your second nature. You are browsing the net, you see something cool, look at the source. Okay, maybe you will find some stuff which is interesting. Some stuff that you find that you want to move to your website. How they did it, that's very fancy stuff. I want it for my website, or I want to learn or adapt it. So by looking at the source, you can learn a lot about the website. And interestingly, those people have this line, content, using a generator, which is called WordPress 4.5. Okay, so you know that they are using WordPress in order to create that website. Okay. All the others, by the way, were creating by WordPress as well, 10 Downing Streets and so on. I mean, when you have a good web designer, they tend to remove that afterwards. I mean, you don't want 10 Downing Street to do advertisement for WordPress. I don't think it would be appropriate. But university departments, they choose the easy way, and all the advertising for WordPress is still part of the page. Okay. So sometimes you are lucky. By looking at the source, you will get a lot of information. Sometimes you are not. And that's a shame. So that's already a good reason to use WordPress. Okay, it's used by very different people, very different scenario environments, but it's definitely professional. Let's have a quick look at 10 Downing Streets. So we can see that our Prime Minister is traveling to Denmark at the moment. Okay, so what is WordPress? So I put in red some very exciting concepts. It's free and it's open source. Okay, so free is good. Open source, it means that you can build on it. You can add your own functionalities and you can contribute to the WordPress project. So it was designed for building blogs, and also it's called a dynamic content management system, so it allows you to build websites. Okay. It has a very nice interface. You don't need to have a degree in IT to use WordPress. Someone who is good with computers, if you are able to use Facebook at an advanced level, you will manage WordPress. Okay. Nothing to if you are not doing something too complicated, just follow the instruction, click at the right place, and you will get a blog or website in a few hours. Okay. So almost a quarter of the top 10 million websites, so the websites which are the most accessed on the internet, a quarter of them are using WordPress. A bit more of all websites. Okay, but the numbers are not very different, which shows that it's used both by professionals, which are usually the top 10 million websites, and by amateurs, because the numbers are very close. So there are more than 60 million websites which were built using WordPress. And the good thing is that you can create your plugins as a developer in order to add some extra functionality to the basic WordPress which is provided to you. Okay. So for IT professional, it's ideal. You get all the main functionalities, and then you create your own in order to customize your website so that it doesn't look like the website of someone else. And also it's your added value. If you are a website designer and you are just providing what WordPress can provide in a couple of hours, what is the value of your work? If you are able to write a very specific plugin, which is a functionality that WordPress cannot provide, that's where you are interesting on the market. So as I said, WordPress is the most popular content management system for websites. Here are some statistics. So that was the statistics for this week, actually. So we say that 49% in the top million websites have been created using WordPress. Then you have other systems like Drupal, Blogger, Joomla, which have been used as well, but WordPress is really number one. So your activity for next week, first of all, I mean for next month, but hopefully you will have submitted by next week. First of all, to get your domain and your server, and when that's up and running, create a blog, a basic blog with WordPress. All the instructions are provided in the activity brief. For this one, I would suggest starting maybe a bit earlier than before, because in order to get your domain and your server, you may need 24 hours for the transaction to be done. Okay, so don't wait for the last minute. But I'm sure you will have fun, and that's your first step as a webmaster if you don't have one so far. Thank you for your attention. See you next time.